Well, good evening, Talo Falava. Welcome everybody to Talanoa 1.9. This is our ninth episode, believe it or not. And it's actually Samoan Language Week, so Talo Falava. And because it's Samoan Language Week, I have a Niuean guest today who's gonna come and share who's gonna come and share a little bit about what she's been going through in terms of her health journey. But before we start, like I always do, we'll start off with a word of prayer. So let us pray. Father, we just want to thank you for this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come again to share, to gather insight, to bring courage to those who are walking through cancer, and to give hope. So, Lord, we just want to bless this time together with my sister Heke. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Minute.
Amen and amen. So, my special guest, who I have been stalking since I met her to tell her story, as my sister Heke. Now, before she comes and shares her journey, I just wanted to share how I met Heke. So, we both going through cancer together, and I was doing my chemo. I can't remember for whatever reason what round it was, but it was definitely a mid afternoon session, and I'm usually there for a couple of hours, 4 to 5 hours, and I'm there with my husband. And anytime I go to chemo, more I'm the kind of person who likes to talk to people, especially if I see a Pacifica or someone that might be from the Pacific or Maori. I make a beeline. Well, this afternoon I walked in and I was sitting getting ready. I had my port plugged in, very quiet area until I hear this voice, this beautiful voice in the background calling out, "Did you bring my KFC?" And so I don't know if you remember that, sis. That
Yes, I
just got my
do.
that just got my attention, and I thought, who calls out in the middle of a chemo clinic for KFC? Only a Niuean, right?
Pretty
So
much.
pretty much. So she's calling out to her baba, her son, who then walks in with KFC, I think it was, and a few other goodies. And then I got alongside this girl, and ever since then, I've not let her go, even though she's trying to tell me off a million times. Now, I have encouraged my sister because she's got very colourful language, very colourful language. And I said, tonight, the colourful language you can share on your journal, but let's speak the stories from your heart in terms of what you've walked through, and you're going to bring courage to people tonight, ASIS. So
Yes.
I'm going to hand it over to you because you're going to start, and then as you tell Noah, we'll just unpack it as we go.
Okay, cool.
Or yours, sister.
Okay, whakawhai atu. My name is Heke Manukuo. I'm Niuean. I'm a New Zealand-born Niuean American Samoan. My mum's name is Fale Taufakalahi, and she is from Hakupu, Niue, but she's also American Samoan. My nana's from Pango, Leone, in Pango. My dad's Niuean. He's from Hakupu as well. Um, I have five brothers and there's three sisters. I'm the oldest out of the girls, and the most gangster one out of all of us. But
No,
hey,
no kidding, no
I
kidding.
there's no holds barred, but I do have a heart. Anyway, yes. So, um, my where do I begin?
Mm,
So back in 2015, February 2015, I had taken my parents back to Niue for a holiday, 2 week holiday. I hummed and hard about taking them. I didn't actually want to go back to Niue with my parents because that's just me. I'm a New Zealand at heart. But my sister was like, "No, you're taking them. It's your turn to take them." So I took over two parents that had dementia.
mm,
Do you know how hard that is? It's
that
really
would
hard. Yeah. And my it was like yeah, and then so 2 weeks, on the rock. I loved it. I took my parents out every day in the car. They enjoyed it, but then they got sick of it because we were just going around the rock, which took like not that long, but hey. And then so we came back February the 8th. We headed back to New Zealand, me, my
Mm,
mum, and my dad. Um, it was a hard one because my dad did not want to get on the plane,
mm.
and so one of my cousins, San Joanne, had helped my dad on the plane. He had to physically force my dad to the. It was like the closer we got to the plane, the more scared my dad was getting. And he was like, he wants to go home. He wanted to go home. And I go, well, we are going home. And he goes, no, it's home in Niue. And I was like, no, we're not going back to the village of Hakupu, where my
Did
brother
did
Mitch stays.
did that time for your mum and dad for their dementia? Did
Yeah.
that help them? Like, did it?
Oh, I don't know, because, like, my parents, before dementia happened, they were hardworking people. When we used to go to Niue, they were always in the bush,
Mm,
24/7. They were always going to functions and that. But this trip with them, all we did was pretty much we got invited to functions, but it was really hard for me to take my mum.
mm,
My dad just didn't want to go anywhere. He would just sit on the chair outside and scream at the kids that were going past, and I had to growl him because he just laughing, but walking up and down the street, and he's telling them, the most colourful words, and I'm like, okay, no, can't do that.
mm.
Um, But yeah, because my in my head, because they both had dementia, I was actually scared in case they went walkabouts in the
Yeah,
bushes and that.
yeah.
Um, my mum had a fall. I had to take her to the hospital. That kind of freaked me out, you know. And then the first week of our so-called holiday, like I get a message from my sister Gina, who's now passed away. I'm
Mm,
saying that she is sick, and I was like, "Well,
yeah,
go to the doctors." And then
yeah.
she was like, I said to her, go to my doctor's, which is down Mangere Bridge.
Mm,
So she decided to go down to my doctor's, and then they told her get up to Middlemore, and she was a bit scared because we went around. My siblings were, they were with her 24/7, but it was like she wanted her parents pretty much.
how old is Gina at that time?
She was 40.
Okay.
She was 40. And so she ended up in hospital. I don't know what happened because we're in Niue, but I just said to her when we were coming home, you best be home when we
Mm,
come back to New Zealand. You best be home, and yeah, so you know. Parents that have dementia and your mother falls and you take her to the hospital because she's on blood thinners, and you know that if you fall or bleed or you clot, and when you clot,
yeah.
that's at the end, blah blah blah. And that's what I was scared of. Um, and then yeah, but our trip home, it was like the longest day ever. So we arrived back in New Zealand on the 8th of Feb, in the evening,
Mm,
and I had to tell my parents didn't know Gina was in hospital until we arrived back here because I didn't want to tell them,
yeah.
because they might get upset over a Niue. And she told me not to tell them, so I didn't tell them. But as soon as we came back, my mum came in the house and she started looking for Gina. We had to tell her, Mum, Gina's in hospital. She's had an operation, and we'll go up in the morning to see her.
Mm,
That was the plan. That was the plan.
that was the plan.
Um, yeah. Um, so
All
we
right.
get a
So
call in the morning.
yeah.
My brother texts me in the morning. He goes, "Get up to the Middlemore.
Mm,
Gina's gone into cardiac." And I'm like, "What the hell?
yeah.
What do you mean she's gone into cardiac?" No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we all jump in the car, leave our parents at home, shoot up to Middlemore, get up to Middlemore, and you see the doctors trying to resuscitate her. They've been resuscitating her for ages. But yeah. She was gone.
Man,
It was like, oh, I didn't expect to come back from
Niue with
Niue
that.
to this
Mm,
because we've never had like we've had my mum's siblings and that pass away and that,
mm.
but we've never had our own sibling. And Gina
Sibling.
is yeah, she's the youngest. You
Wow.
know, um,
I
and
know.
so so we watched them, and they like I don't know. I just went into this. My brother said to me, "You have to go home and tell mum," and I'm like, "Dude, I just spent 2 weeks with them. Why do I have to do that?"
Mm,
So I come home, and my mum's hanging out the clothes on the line, and I hopped out of the car. It was me and my sister Maureen, and I grabbed my mum's hand and I took her inside, and I go, "Oh, mum, um, I've got to tell you something." And she goes,
mm.
"Oh, um, what is it?" And I says, "Oh, G's passed." Oh, she
Wow.
just screamed the house down, and then she just turned around. Why, Gina? Why, Gina? And
Mm.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought, okay, no, I can handle this. I can handle this.
Mm. Mm.
And then she goes, oh, why did she die? And I was like, I don't know, mum. No, I didn't know anything about it. Why she died
Mm.
in there. Um, and then she went in the room and she told my dad, and my dad just laid there like a stunned mullet, and then he just turned around and went to sleep. So I got my mum ready, and then we just left the house as it was, shot up to Middlemore, and then uh, yeah, it was like I just left them there. I had to get out of there. It was like,
Mm.
is this a dream? Is this for real?
Mm.
Yeah. So that was a real, yeah. It was it was like it was a shock because you
I,
go on a holiday and you don't expect to come back to
your sibling
your
passing.
sister. Yeah,
I know,
your
sis.
sister
Hey, look,
passing.
sis, I can, you know, I've said this many times to listeners that to retrace trauma
Yeah,
can bring
yeah,
back, and in particular, if we've walked through cancer, to retrace that kind of journey can trigger some things in one's heart. And look, sis, I
yeah.
can feel you. I feel you. And, you know, you've took mum and dad who were going through dementia to back to Niue. That in itself is huge. It's a in Samoan we call it avenga, or another carrying inside your soul, and then getting them back into the country, and then from wherever that came from, the passing of your sister so suddenly. So it sounds like that layer onto another layer,
Yeah.
and you being the level-headed sister in your family, who the go-to gangster hard has to carry this. Hey.
Yeah. So so Gina died in Feb,
Mm,
and then like I had to give up everything. I gave up work and that just to stay home and look after my parents.
mm.
But didn't expect my dad to die 5.5 months later, eh?
Oh my gosh.
So my dad died in August.
Hey.
Um,
5.5 months after
yeah,
Gina.
after Gina died. And that was a slap in the face because
Mm,
if anything, it was my mum that was sick, not my dad. But like Gina was my dad's princess. That was
okay.
his heart. Like because she was the baby. I
Yeah.
called her the accident child. 'Cause, So yeah, my dad died, and then
What did Dad pass away with?
my dad his heart just I think
Heart,
he died of a. I think he
broken,
died of a broken
broken
heart.
heart. Yeah.
Yeah, because of his daughter. You know, that was his baby. That like they were. Those two were like, yeah. So
Mm,
like like because my parents had dementia, um, Gina would take my mum and I would take my dad, but my dad would always rather go with Gina.
mm,
Um, but because that's what we did. We took turns like taking them out
mm.
in there. Um, it was
And
just
how old was Dad at that time, sis?
he was my dad was 80 something. 80. I knew
So
you were
he
going
was
to
in
ask me this.
well,
Early,
he
early,
was in his 80s, eh?
yeah, he was in his 80s.
Okay.
I think it was like 80, 83, 82, 83 when he
Mm,
passed. And then, so that kind of like, yeah. And then, so it was just me and my mum at home, you know,
was she
because when my
still
dad,
in dementia?
yeah, yeah,
Was it getting
my
any better or was it getting worse?
My mum's one was worse. My
Okay.
my dad was his one was okay. We could handle him.
Yeah.
Um, but my mum, she tried to climb out the window. She
Yeah.
mixed tea and she used to mix milk with water, salt with sugar, Milo and the coffee together. We had
Yeah.
tea parties at home. Like at 9 o'clock at night, you go in the house and the table's set for the finest cutlery, and I'm asking her who's coming over, her her friends from church, from Mangere PIC, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Mum, it's night time, they're not
Mm,
coming. But she had everything out, like the plates and all that, and then and two pieces of bread, and I'm going, is that all your friends are gonna eat? Two pieces of bread. Mr. Taro in there. But she used to go walkabouts,
yeah.
like it used to do our heads in because there was one night me and my son were sleeping and like we could hear someone's voice but we didn't
Mm,
know where it was coming from. And so my mum was, I don't know, picking up clothes or hanging up clothes, and she was, this is like 3 in the morning. This is like 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's outside by the clothesline. We've had the police bring her home because she's gone walkabouts up to the dairy looking for my dad.
wow.
Uh, yeah, so she got brought home and they were like, oh, does Sally live here? And we are like, yeah, she's in the room sleeping. No, she's in the
Mm,
car. And I'm like, looking at the car. Oh my gosh, you talk about
mm,
us trying not coming home in a cop car, but you come home. So, so she was walking up the road, and what had happened was this cop was just watching her go from side to side,
okay.
and crossing the road, and they had to pull her over because if a
Yeah.
car comes speeding up the road, it would have slammed into her. So they put her in the car, asked her where she lived. She knew where she lived. They
Mm.
asked her what she was doing out on the road. She was looking for my dad. You know,
Oh.
yeah,
Mm,
like because my mum's routine. So when my mum was working, she was a cleaner at Epsom Gills at the hostel, and she
yeah.
did that for 27 years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, she just came home one day and told me and Gina she wants to finish work.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, if that's what you want to do, then so be it. So she gave up work, but her like everything she used to do, she
Mm,
still did it, even though she stayed home. It was like get up at like 4 in the morning, clean up, do the washing and that, and then that was her. And then
mm,
get ready for work. And she never used to ask us to take her. She always used to catch the bus, like
wow.
6 o'clock in the morning.
Mm,
You know, um, sh- but that was just her. She just loved the bus rides. Yeah. But yeah. So when my dad died, it was like she. There was one day she went walking, and I found her at Mangere PIC.
wow.
And that's like a hour's walk from our house if you're a slow walker. But if you're a fast walker, you'd catch the bus. But yeah. So she had walked down to the church.
Mm,
and that was during the week, a day during the week. It had been raining. I don't know what made me go down the church to look for her. And when I was crossing the road it was busy that morning. So I put her in the car, brought her home, showered her, and put her back into bed. That's the things that I had to put up with. Um, she
Who was she looking for on that trip?
she was every trip was my dad.
Dad.
Every trip
Talopai.
was she was looking for my
Oh,
dad.
yeah.
Because he wasn't coming home at night. So in her head, what's he doing? Where's he drinking?
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So after my dad died, I just stayed home with my mum. Every day we went out. We never stayed home. I put her in a daycare up here at Mangere.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes in at like 10 o'clock, and then I pick her up at about 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
So what she does is I just dropped her off. It was just so I could get stuff done around the house in there, But every day we were never ever home. We were always
Mm.
out on the road. I didn't care where I took her. She just loved just to sit there and you know
Go for a
enjoy
ride
the
and
car ride. Yeah.
mm,
And then
mm,
come January 2016,
mm.
uh, having stomach cramps.
Yeah.
Um, So I went to the doctors. They gave me some Laxal tablets, which is for constipation.
Mm,
And about a week later, I said to my sister Maureen, "Oh, my stomach's still sore, but it's like someone was standing on it. Was just putting their foot in it and just
mm,
digging into it." So my sister told me go get a second opinion, which I
mm,
did on a Saturday. So that Saturday I went up, got a second opinion up here to Mangere East doctors, and he turned around and said to me, "You need to get up to Middlemore." Um, because what
Did he
he'd done
take?
was like
Yeah.
he made me lay down on the table and pull my top up, and he started feeling around, like my stomach and that, and all he did
Yeah.
was drop his finger like this on my stomach, and oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I screamed. I
Really?
screamed like, yeah, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
came out with that scream was so colourful. And he said to me, "You need to get up to middle. You need to get up to Middlemore." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Home, and I said to my
Yeah.
sister, "I need to get up to Middlemore." So everything
Oh my
that
gosh.
happened then, it was like this whole thing about what had happened to Gina. Go to the doctors, get to Middlemore. But my doctor said to me, it could be anything. It could be a twisted bowel. It could be this. It could be that. And so I
Yeah.
went up to Middlemore. But in my head, I didn't really want to go to Middlemore because who was going to look after my mum? So my baby
Mm,
brother Kevin, had to come home and look after my mum. And it was like, you get some. What do I feed her? Food. Can you just make sure you change her nappy? Her pull up, blah
mm,
blah blah.
mm, mm.
That was my biggest worry was my mum. Um,
Yes. Yes.
so that was like so Saturday, all these tests and that bloods, blah blah blah. And then they took me up on Sunday, took me up to do scrapings and that, did CT scans, poking and prodding. And then Sunday mid morning, a doctor came and he goes, "Okay, Hickey, we're going to transfer you over to the gynecology ward."
Mm,
Like, looked at him, I'm not going there. And he just looked
mm,
at me, "But you've got a woman's problem," and I was like, "Yeah, nah, not going."
mm,
And then he goes, "But you've got a woman's problem," and I was going, "Yeah," and I'm not going. And then
mm,
um and he goes, and looking to me, but like I just zoned out. And then I looked at my sister and my niece were there, Maureen and Ayla were with me,
mm,
and my cousin, and I just like looked at the doctor, And I says, how would I want to go into a ward where my sister died? And
Yeah.
he just looked at me and he goes, oh, okay, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to do something and I'll come back for answer. Because
Mm,
I started welting up and I was like, oh my gosh, how can you do
mm,
that? And then they came back and he goes, okay, we found you a room outside the gyno ward. Are you for real? So I
mm.
don't know if you go until you've got these rooms before you go into the actual ward there. They wanted to put me in there and I said, no, nah. I says, I just don't want to be anywhere near the gynecology ward where my sister
Yeah.
died. So they went away, and another doctor and a nurse came and they said, okay, so this is what we're going to do. You're going to Green Lane. And I just like looked at them, okay, like stuff is getting serious because I didn't know what was Green Lane. They
Yeah.
didn't, you know, um, and so they said, we're just going to do this. We're going to take you down to Green Lane and then we'll let you know what's happening. So I get down to Green Lane, like my appointment came. So I was telling my son, so my Australia, and my
Yeah.
two brothers came from Aussie, and my other brother that came from Niue, and I'm like, dying. I'm just because I didn't know what was going on. But my
Yeah.
brother in Niue, my brother Mitch in Niue, he came over so he could look after mum. Like
Yeah.
he wanted to be here for my mum because I wasn't here.
Yes.
And
Yes.
plus he wanted to be here for me as well. Um, and so I
Well,
thought, oh
you
yeah,
gotta you gotta remember too, sis, that your younger sister passed and
yeah,
your
yeah,
dad passed. So
yeah.
of course everyone's gonna
Of course,
come, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So
So
so he comes. Does he come from
yeah,
Niue?
yep.
Okay.
He came. My son came, and then my appointment was on, and then it was like, so we go to my appointment, and there's like how many of us, and we're all sitting in the room, and they're explaining to me what they're gonna do,
Mm,
and I just sat there like dumbfounded. Okay, this is getting. And then my son goes, "Are you okay, mum?" And I go, "I don't know. What are they going on about?" So what they had told me was they're gonna do a full hysterectomy, and so
oh,
I was like,
okay.
"Oh, okay." And they go, but we don't know what else we're gonna find until we get in there. So they did a full hysterectomy, and then they said to me, "You might end up with a stoma bag," and I was like, "Okay, what's that?" And they were
How does it
explaining
go?
it to me.
How does it go from hysterectomy to
This is what they were saying because
to a
so they
stoma?
were showing us the X-rays, and they were showing me the dark shade, and they don't know what it is until they get in there. But if they have to remove that part, I'll end up with a stoma bag. And I
So
was
the
like,
dark, so because I mean the listeners will be going, "What's a stoma?"
yeah, a
So
stoma bag is you know what it is? I can't say the
it's like
word. It's
yeah,
it's a
a
it's a
portable.
shit bag.
Okay. Well,
No,
I
it's
was
a
gonna
shit bag.
say a poo bag. All right,
Yeah,
a bag that you put on the outside because but that part of you has been removed.
yeah,
So that yeah. So I guess you have just been told that you're going to have a hysterectomy, and yet they talk
yeah,
stoma. So that when you say, I'm just saying what you're saying because people are listening. Because remember,
yeah,
as people listen, they might go, "Oh, I've got a sore stomach. Oh, what does that mean? I've had constipation." Hey, so we're
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at you're lying in the hospital. You've been told all these things, and so there's a dark shade. You'll say there's a dark
yeah,
shade over a certain part of your body. Okay.
yeah,
So we're
yeah,
saying along that. So now they're saying stoma. So
yeah.
then what happens after that?
Okay, so they're talking about a stoma bag, but like I just really didn't, um, because my sister or my family were my ears because I just zoned out as soon as like I just really didn't listen to anything the doctors were saying, but all I could remember was, "Do you smoke?" Yes, I do. You
Mm.
need to stop smoking. No, I'm not going to. That's
Mm.
all I keep thinking of. But they were
Mm.
going on. They were like they showed us all these stuff on laptop and on the computer and the screen, and for the life of me, I just did not know what was happening. Um, the day, so they were just gonna happen. Blah blah blah. Bag hysterectomy, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't know what the
Wow.
hell.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm just one of those that just goes in, does it, and come. That's it.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay. So the day came, the day of my operation,
Mm.
day
The
of my
hysterectomy.
Yep.
Mm.
So that morning we had to be at the hospital at 7. The day of the operation, my mum's baby sister passes away.
Oh my goodness.
And in my head, I'm thinking to do the
About your mum.
operation. Yeah,
Mm.
I just want to be with my mum. And so my cousin, the daughter of my auntie, rings me up because I was crying. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to. She goes, do the operation. Mum wouldn't want you to think about her. You think about yourself. And I'm
Mm.
thinking, but I don't want to do it. I want to be with
Mm.
the family. I want to be there for my auntie.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that was another slap in the face
Yeah. Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
was like, okay, why is everything happening like this? So I, so I thought, okay, let's do the operation, get over and done with. I've got this. What was meant to take a 3-hour operation? I think I was in there the whole day and I didn't come out until about 6 o'clock.
Whoa.
Yeah, so there was a bit of a complication in the op. I don't know what it was. I really didn't ask, didn't really want to know because, like I thought,
Yeah.
and then my family was a bit worried because it was like, so they did the operation, they removed everything, but then they found that there was a tumor and it was 4 centimeters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had to remove the tumor. They had to, but there's part of it that they couldn't remove because of where it was sitting. It
Mm.
was in a dangerous place. And I
Mm.
just kept thinking, oh, well, at least I've got the majority of it out.
Yeah.
And then they sent some of that tumor to be tested. And in
Yeah.
my head, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Um, so when I woke up in the recovery room, like
Mm.
my niece was looking for me and she felt because she works up there and she goes, oh, auntie, they're all worried about you. She talked to the one of the doctors, and the doctor said that my blood pressure kept dropping, and if it keeps dropping, I was going to go into ICU.
Mm.
And I was like, but I feel okay. I mean, she said try another blood pressure pad. So they changed it and got another one, and everything was like okay. And she goes, just keep an eye on it. It should be okay because she looks fine. Blah blah blah. Anywho, so I'm talking to her. And then I just went to go, I don't know what made me go down, put my hand down by my stomach.
Mm.
And all I could feel was like going straight down my stomach, past my belly button, and then
Mm.
kind of like move my hand to the side. And there's this bag. And all you hear is, what the hell is this?
Mm.
They're like, it's your stoma bag. That's where your poo goes through. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, oh
So,
my gosh.
so, okay. Look, I think about what you're sharing because sometimes, like I've said this before, to recount that kind of part of
Yeah.
one's life is can be a little bit traumatizing in itself.
Yeah.
But also when I listen to you, and this is what as people are listening now, when the person who's receiving the diagnosis, your mind
It's not there.
is
It's
not
like all
there.
over the place. Yeah.
And so what I've said in the last couple of programs, and everyone has said this, take somebody with you that can listen on your behalf.
Yeah.
And if no one's there, recorded on the phone. And so I'm listening to you, sis, because no doubt you would have had to fill out inform. Hey, you got to fill out all the
Yeah, yeah,
paperwork,
yeah, yeah,
and I'm thinking, if I'm thinking about where your state of mind was prior to the operation, you just lost your dad, you
yeah.
lost your sister, you've been caring for mum who has an extreme level of dementia, your auntie just died, and you're in possibly the most life changing and life threatening space or place for you, health wise.
Mm,
And so
yeah.
here you are with your hand going down your body, and then you look down and there's a stoma bag.
I
Now
know
that would have, hey,
that
that sounds like
just
it would have shocked you out of what the heck?
yeah. It was like because I didn't like they say you might have one, but then when you actually feel it, it's like oh gross. So
Yeah.
yeah, they took me. So everything fell into place, and then they took me back to my room, and my family were waiting there. Did the royal wave, my famous royal wave, the one finger royal wave. Um, and then
You
and
mean
then
you
they were
mean
just
this one?
happy.
You mean this
Yeah,
one?
that's the one. And then they were just happy that I was okay. They stayed with me for a while, and then they
Yeah.
gapped it. But my son stayed with me for the whole 2 weeks I was in hospital. So
Because
come the
he
next
lives
morning,
in Aussie, eh?
Aussie, yeah, he stays in
Yeah.
Aussie with his partner and his two
Yeah.
children, my two grannies. So
Yeah.
he came back home, and it was only he was only meant to come for 2 weeks, but um, yeah, he ended up staying like but yeah, so that night the nurse came and said I was trying to punch her. I was still dazed, try to rip
Yeah.
out the lung, try to rip out the whatever else it was. Um, she said I was really feverish. Well, I didn't even know any of this until they told me that morning, and I apologized because I didn't go in to hit anyone, but hey,
Mm,
um, she goes, I was just getting rather aggro because of where I was and didn't know where I was, but
mm. And
yeah,
you were all made up though,
yeah,
weren't
I
you?
was all yeah. And then come that morning when she was telling us, I looked at my son and I was going, "And you were meant to look after me." And he goes, and he told the nurse, "You should, like he said to the nurse,
Yeah,
you should
yeah.
have woken him up because he said he would have, got up and slapped me
Calm down.
silly, blah blah blah, as you do." So, so that morning, because they said to me after the operation, in the morning, we'd like you to get up and walk around, have a shower and
Mm,
just walk around. And so I got up and I was walking into the shower and my son's following me. And
mm,
I'm looking at him and I'm like, where are you going? And he turned around and
mm,
goes, well, who's going to wash you? Or who's going to wash your butt? And
mm.
I just started crying because I thought,
Oh,
oh my gosh.
yeah. Your
Yeah,
son, eh? Your
yeah, yeah.
son.
And I
Kalofai.
just looked at him and I was like, yep, okay. Let's say he was showering me and that made me proud,
Yeah, yeah,
because you know what your kid's doing that far
yeah.
out, especially a boy.
But you know what, sis? I'll tell you what you felt was how your parents feel when we
Yeah,
go
yeah,
when we wash our parents. I
yep,
mean, I know when my mum passed a year ago now. It's strong as, and we all had
yep,
turns washing her and changing her.
yeah, yeah.
She did not like that because of their
No, they
dignity,
don't.
eh? But
Yeah, my dad
here
didn't
you
like
are.
it.
No, you're dead. But
Yeah,
here you are with your baby, your son.
yeah. So he
Kalofai.
was, yeah. And then I said to him, "Oh, let's go for a walk." They said to me, "Walk." Yeah,
Mm,
they meant walk around the ward, not walk down to Ward 5 to the canteen because I just want to drink. And so they were looking, the nurses and the doctors were looking for me.
mm,
And then when we came back to they were like, we've been looking for you. And I says, but you told me to go for a walk. And they go, yeah,
mm,
around the ward, around. I'm like, oh, but it was good because we just kept walking. I just did not want to stay in the hospital for too long.
But
But
walking is good though.
yeah, yeah. And so like he stayed with me for the whole
2 weeks.
um 2 weeks that I was in there. And then like my family kept coming up to visit, and then my brother brought my mum up the day of my auntie's funeral, and I didn't want my mum.
To see you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
I was like, because it was
mm,
hard.
mm, mm. Yeah, it's all good,
And then
sis.
like,
It's all good.
like I said to him, "Mom, why'd you bring her for?" And he goes, "Oh, she wanted
Mm,
to see you." And I was like, "Oh," my mum was crying, and I was like, "Oh," I didn't want her to see me like that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so when I got discharged, like I came home. I was so happy to be home just to see my mum, because I had to put her into respite as well while I
Mm,
was
mm.
at the hospital. Because you're in hospital, and that's all you think, "Oh, is your mum okay? Is she being fed? Blah blah blah." Um, that's all I kept thinking of, was
Mm.
my mum. Uh,
But
yeah, so
but that's your heart, is that you
yeah,
always think about other people
and
before
then
you think of yourself, eh?
yeah, and then so I so I think 2 weeks after my op, oh, they said I had started. They had called in and said, "Oh, that I have cancer." Once again, I just like looked at them and I thought, "Yeah, okay,
Was that
you know,
from the tumor that they took out of you?
yeah, yeah, they took out of me." So
Okay.
I had like the cancer was actually, and that's the reason why they did a hysterectomy, because as
Mm.
well as my bowel,
Wow.
which yeah, it's a
Mm.
double banger.
Mm.
And then it was yeah, it was like so when we went up to Green Lane and they told me that this was happening, and I'll be starting chemo,
What?
I just I just went, okay, I need to go outside for a smoke. So I went
Mm.
outside, because the doctors, like we did the meeting, they told me what they were going, the chemo that
Mm.
what's going to happen with chemo and that, and I just I had to go down to oncology, have a meeting with the doctors, didn't know what to
Mm.
expect, and it was like, all right, is this for real? Shit.
Mm.
And so um, we went. We went to Green Lane again, and they sorted everything out. And then I had an appointment with oncology. Went to meet up with the doctors. They explained to me what they were going to give me, how long it was going to last, and the effects what chemo does to you. And in all honesty, I thought, yeah, okay, I can handle this. So my
Mm.
first chemo treatment, I walked in. It was my appointment was at 7 in the morning. Um, the room. Oh no, sorry, 8. The rooms were all packed, and we were like, me and my son were
Yeah.
like looking at each other because we didn't know what to expect.
Mm.
And then they were like, go soak your hands, can't find your veins, story of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Those veins, they're too deep. They're wrapped around all those muscles on my arms. No jokes. So yeah, it was like, and so we did it. I did my first
Mm.
session, and I thought, like I was like, oh my gosh, and I said to my son, man, that I feel good. Worst mistake
Mhm.
ever. Because come that night, I was vomiting.
Yeah.
My stoma bag was bursting. I
Oh my
was
gosh.
crying.
Yeah.
I hated my life, actually. I really did at that time.
Mm.
Um, because,
Be-
like,
Did you have a
I
port?
thought, no,
Oh, so did you
no,
get the
no,
chemo through your arm?
yeah, through my
All
hand.
right. Mm.
And so, it was like, okay, I'm not liking this. I'm not liking this, especially
Mm.
when the bag burst. Like it was hard. It was really hard because when the bag burst, it was like, oh my gosh, I think I spent more time in the shower during the night because it kept bursting. But what I had
Oh
found
my
out
gosh. That's
was that
tough, man.
the chemicals, they couldn't hold the chemical stuff. It wasn't, like, so
So,
they kept sending the nurses home to change the bag to different bags, and then we found one that could actually hold, whatever went through my body. It was like, okay, it was a two-piece. Um, so
but I,
yeah, my
you would think, you would think that they would know.
yeah, nah.
So,
I
because
think
the
everybody
it was different,
because
everyone's different.
yeah, yeah, because I had like there was two bags of chemicals they were putting through me, the chemo stuff. One was Taxol and the other one was something else, which I don't know. So it used to go, I don't know if you remember, it goes, they do the flush,
Yeah,
and then they do something else, and then they put in the chemical, then another
yeah,
flush, then another chemical, then the flush again. So there was like six
yeah.
things yeah, that was happening.
And
Um,
then and
and
then when you and then when you do get the chemo, it's like, oh,
yeah,
those
yeah.
the last 3 hours wasn't chemo.
Yeah, it
No,
was like flush, flush, flush.
flash,
But
flash.
yeah, yeah.
Hey.
Um, so yeah, it was, yeah, I don't know how to
So how
it
many
was
how
like
many how many how many months of that then?
I had
From
three
the
three months, the first time. The very first time.
yeah,
So the very first time was I think it was 2017
yeah,
that I
which
did my
is when
very first when I
when I met
did
you.
my very yeah 2017 is my first chemo session.
Yeah.
It was 6 sessions over 3 months, kind of, or
Mm,
was it 4 months?
mm,
It was every 3 weeks anyway. So what would happen is they do the chemo, you feel drowsy the first week, you kind of pick yourself up the second week, and then boom, your third week's on, and then it's chemo again.
mm, mm.
Um, yeah.
So that was
So it was
and were you working?
nah, not at that time.
Not at that
I
time.
nah, nah. Um, so that kind
And
of
where was mum then?
mum was still here. I put her in a rest home. So
Yeah.
when I was doing chemo, I ended up putting so my mum ended up with the urine infection. It was
Mm,
hard for me to deal with chemo as well as with my mum.
yeah.
And then she had a real bad UTI, so we called the ambulance, took her up to Middlemore,
Mm,
and then I just messaged all my siblings and said, I need to put mum in a rest home, only until I was better.
okay, better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
That's hard.
did all the I did all the chemo and that. You know, my son left. Um, I think it was the fourth session he had left, and I had two more to go. And he asked me to, if it's he wanted to stay, and I was like, your family's here, because they came over for their her nana's unveiling,
Mm,
my daughter-in-law. So she brought the kids over for the unveiling. And then I said to my son, nah, you need to go with your family because you've been here too long and you're making me broke
mm,
and
mm,
my bank account's looking empty. No. So yeah, he ended up going back and I did the last two sessions with my family,
mm,
um, which was good. And then I finished like on a Thursday,
mm,
and I went up my last session. It was a Thursday. And then I went up because I wasn't meant to go up and see my mum, but every session I still made an effort to go see her. I'd put a mask on, go kiss her hello, and um, but when she saw me with my no hair, she asked what happened, and I told her,
mm,
I told her I was sick.
mm.
I got cancer, and then she cried, blah blah blah. But the day I finished my last session of chemo, and I went up and I said, "I'm going to bring you home, mum. Just
Yeah.
going to go home and sort some stuff out." That was on a Thursday, and then she died on the Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
It slapped me in the face.
Galofai. She's waiting for
Um,
you, sis.
yeah, my son goes, "Oh, she was waiting for you to finish chemo, mum." I was
Galofai.
going, "But that's not how it was meant to end. It wasn't
Me.
meant to end like that. It was meant to be me bring her home,
Yeah.
play happy families, and chase her up the road and whatever, But yeah, no, she passed away, and that kind of hit me in the face. So,
Yeah.
and then everything was going well, and then I think the following year, so I've done chemo 2017,
Yeah.
2018, 2019 I missed, did it in 2020, no, 2019. I think 2019 I missed 20.
We must have missed each other in 20 because I was
Yeah.
2019, 2020.
So this is so at the moment now I'm going through chemo again,
Oh my gosh.
chemo number 5. So what had happened was, in my last consultation with the doctors,
Yeah.
they said that there's a new growth, um, where my stomach is, behind my stomach lining. There's a new growth, and they just want to knock it on the head. So I am now doing chemo once a week for the next. I think I've got another 5 sessions to go. That kind of, yeah. I wasn't gonna do it
Yeah. I
because
remember.
your body
Yeah.
can only take so much. It's like
Mm.
it's draining. It's like, oh my gosh. So this chemo session now,
Mm.
I do it on a Monday. I did it on Monday. Slept when I came home. Slept all day yesterday.
Mm.
Today it's like the very very first time I did it because I'm doing Taxol again. But when I spoke to the doctor last Friday, she said that my markers have gone down, so
Okay.
it's shrinking. Yeah, so that node in my stomach is shrinking, so that's a
That's a
good
good thing.
sign
Yeah.
that it's
It's a
yeah
good
yeah.
sign.
But I have a lot of little ones like around my stomach area, but they are growing in the millimeters, not the centimeters, so they're still small.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I've got another 5 sessions to go. I mean, like, I'm so lucky to have people that take me, especially my mate's mum, Charlotte. She always takes me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're still noisy as ever. Like we walk, everyone's like all drained and they've got needles in them, and we're just laughing at each other, because to me it's like, don't ever let chemo hold
Yeah.
you back, and don't let this cancer hold you down. It's like I never stay home. I honestly never ever stay home. Ask my family. It's like I'm always out on the road. So my first week I had chemo, went fine. I was still blah blah blah. The second week I went in, and they did a RATS test, and I ended
Mm.
up with COVID.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
so how did I get COVID? I don't know, because the only place I went to that week was the chemist, my job,
Mm.
and
Mm.
to do my blood test on Saturday, and I still didn't know where I picked it up from, so I couldn't do chemo that week. And
That's
then
so you'll be one of the first Talanoa guests who had their treatment interrupted because of
yeah,
COVID.
COVID, and it
You
was
know.
really hard case because they Fano HQ kept ringing me to see how I was, am I getting symptoms, blah blah blah. I was like, no
Mm-mm.
symptoms, and I don't know what the symptoms are because you tell me what's
Yeah.
COVID and what's chemo symptoms because they are virtually the same thing.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like
Yes.
nauseous, blah blah blah, feverish, but I didn't have any of it. I was asked by my friends at work, because I was isolating in my car and my drives.
Mm.
It's isolation. You don't hop out of the car, you just drive. It was just to keep me sane. So I used to go for a drive
Mm.
every day while in isolation. And then my mate said to me, what about filling your car? That's what MPD is for. You go up at night time when there's nobody around. What about your coffees in the morning? Well, you leave a note as you, because I always get coffee from the BP station. I always say pick up from the window.
We
It's
see
like
it.
usually,
We were saying, weren't we? We were saying
yeah,
about earlier on as we were talking before we started tonight was Heke has uh, a whole host of tips when you have COVID and cancer. She's got the top five, and you just heard it.
it's like, well,
Isolation,
don't, yeah, don't
driving,
just
don't limit
don't get
yourself.
anything. Yeah, it's like get out there. It's a whole lot of market out there. But even though I go shopping out Albany and Northwest, because I'm allowed to, no kidding. But yeah, no, don't. Like my thing is, don't ever let this illness keep you down. It's like I have all my aunties and uncles telling me stay home,
Nice.
look after
Yeah.
myself. Why? Why? If I stay
Mm,
home and look at the four walls, I would be dead by now, and that's the honest truth.
mm,
I would rather
mm,
go out and enjoy my life. I still work full time,
mhm,
so
mhm.
that's a good thing. It keeps you. You've got to keep yourself motivated.
Well, listen, sister, your all your friends are on watching you tonight.
I know I
Their
can see it.
and family all posting you, which is beautiful. And I guess because we usually finish about 8, but
Yeah,
I want to ask something. So I guess what I'm listening to you, there was a part of your life which was so traumatic in terms of loss, of
yeah,
grief,
yeah.
and the grief spanned. It wasn't grief on a long period. It was bang, bang, bang all the way through,
Ongoing.
ongoing. And so you
Yeah.
shared to me something which, as people are listening, what did you feel? How did you feel when in going through that valley of death?
Yeah.
How did that contribute then to you in terms of sickness?
So so I still say it was stress that caused my illness because I've never been one to be sick. So I
Mm,
listened. One day I went to a party with our village, or my family, and one of my uncles, Uncle Yangi Viviani, who's ex premier for Niue, he got up and he says his speech was he was talking about cancer patients. And he goes, cancer is not actually really caused by smoking and whatnot and the food you eat. The biggest problem is stress. And I still believe what he says though, because I still say I was stressed. I went through
mm,
so much stress when my dad died. It was
mm,
like because it's like you give up everything. Like everything came to a halt. It
mm,
was like your whole life is based around your mum, because your dad's gone. It's like,
mm,
it was like, okay, so, and going from a full paid job to the benefit, it took me 5 years just to get my land race up to date because, you know, like me and Gina, we always used to pay our bills. Like,
yes, yes,
everything was half half. Um, and then when Gina died, it was like everything because, you know, so
yeah,
it was like, because we bought my parents' house um, quite a while back, and then it's like, and then when she died, I was like, how
mm,
rude! She left me with a mortgage, you know, and then it went from the mortgage to the land rates, from the land rates to the insurance, to the insurance to the water. Everything just started
mm,
like
yeah,
it was
yeah,
like I never ever thought of it like that. So it's stuff like that that you had to start thinking about. And then like I have my sister, my brother-in-law, my
mm,
niece, and my brother who's just moved back from Aussie. Like they live in the house, and I still live in my garage. Reason being, the house is just I can't breathe in there.
mm,
It's like
mm,
all the rooms are too small. Big garage and live in my garage.
mm,
So like yeah. So but with this, with the chemo coming back, it was a bit of a slap in the face. But hey, it is what it is, and I am still, living life to the fullest.
you know. and I guess when we listen to uh, the trials and tribulations that you yourself have gone through,
Uh-huh.
what as people listen in, that impacts your health. It
Yeah.
it impacts your body. You internalize it. And that's what stress does. I mean, there's good stress, there's bad stress.
Yeah, yeah.
Bad stress
The,
can kill you.
yeah,
So,
it
you
can.
know, we think about how we carry a lot of worry, how we carry a lot of burdens, and we need to release that. We need to let that go. And I know because you and your sister were the ones that carried the whānau for many a
Yeah.
time, and then when your younger sister died, and then your parents again, you've taken that responsibility
Yeah.
on, and so I see you as I listen to you, sis, and because I continue to pray for you, eh? You know,
Mm.
there are times where you have to let it go,
Yeah.
and then you begin to release. And I think it's an interesting place where you're at in your garage
Yeah.
because it's free in terms
Yeah.
of space, in terms of environment, eh? That
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
just be in that space and not be trapped in a house.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we can all take on board about finding a safe zone for you, finding
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
if at all we're not feeling well. I think there's a couple of things um, with the diagnosis that you received, and you received a number of diagnoses.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
received a number of diagnoses, and you don't know what was happening. These things could have happened throughout your life. You probably ignored it.
Yeah.
You like me. I was constipated quite a lot. I didn't think anything of it.
No, you
No,
don't though.
though you don't think it's going to
Yeah.
lead to anything. Oh, like cancer. So
Yeah.
looking at those little things, I'm mindful because we got to finish up soon. But I want to say to
Yeah.
people listening that if in doubt, check it out. You've got to
Get a
listen to
second
your
opinion
body.
if you're not
Get a
if you're
second
not
opinion.
if you're not happy with your doctor's opinion, see another doctor, and that's
That's
the
right.
honest truth. Because had I not gone to see that other doctor, I reckon yeah, I would have suffered in silence and just keep. I must probably be dead actually, but no, I'm
Now,
not.
and that's true. So
Yeah.
that's the thing about if we're listening, and if don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't go by yourself if it's going to be something humongous like this. I
Yeah.
did say take your phone and record it if you
Yeah.
are going to go by yourself. If you are not happy with your doctor, change your doctor.
Yeah.
Change your doctor. And when you
Yeah.
do go to the big hospitals, you say to the doctor, "Excuse me, I don't understand what you're talking about. Could you please slow it down and let's talk me through?" Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to go through it. And I used to say to my doctor, and my particularly people like the nurses or whatever, like I can pick up straight away that attitude that, oh,
Yeah.
she's an islander, she doesn't know anything. Or I used to go, excuse me, have you had cancer before?
Yeah.
No. Do you know what it's like to go have chemo? No. Then I suggest you better be quiet, and let's have some kindness here, but not an
Yeah.
attitude. So that kind of things as a patient, um, we need
That's why a lot
to,
of our
you
poly
know,
people aren't. Like a lot of the poly people, they just sometimes they just let the nurses talk to you that way, and it's like, dude, it's my parents you're talking
yeah,
to. Unless you want me to high five your face, keep it up in the nicest way.
in
But
the
the
nicest
amount
way.
of trouble, no, because honest, hand on heart, like when my mum was getting discharged one day, and me and my son went up to get her, and it wasn't a nurse that was showering. I don't know what they call them, but it was a helper or whatever. She took my mum into shower, and I said to her, "I will do the shower," and she said, "It's okay." She closes the door, and we hear our mother scream. My son goes running in, I go running in,
Mm.
and it was hot water, and my mum's like screaming like it's the water's hot in Niue, and I'm like looking at her, you better get out before I slap you. I want to see them manage. But it's things like that. It's like, dude, you don't treat patients like that. these are human beings. You don't treat your parents like that. So, what makes you think you can do that to my mum and my, like it's like it really hurts.
Yeah, I know, I
It's
know,
like,
I know.
it's like, dude, don't.
Yeah.
I could say a lot of comfortable words, but no, I won't.
You know,
But,
you know,
yeah,
you can't see the comments that are coming to me on my side, but I can see someone. There's somebody here that says, "You're amazing, Heke Wahine Toa. We praise God for your strength. Thank you for sharing your journey. You're amazing, Heke Manukuo. Straight talking woman, all right. She's behaving here."
yeah, no, I am. Do you know how hard it
You're doing,
is?
and you know what? I just want to say, because we have to finish up,
Yeah,
mate. Why?
yeah,
What
cool.
I just want to say, you have lasted just over an hour without saying those colorful
I know,
words.
I know. It was
See,
really hard.
see, Heke, you can do it when you put your mind to it. Hey,
You know how hard it was? It's like, no, get that word out of my head, get it out. But no, I just want to say thank you guys for listening. Sorry if I kind of bored you, but hey, it is what it is.
it's not boring. What it
It's,
is truth.
it's the
Hey,
truth, actually.
and
Yeah, it's
and
from my
and
heart.
there and that's why I do Talanoa, sis. I do
I'll wait till you read
Talanoa.
the journal. You must probably go,
Okay,
oh
so
my God.
I'm going
Yeah.
to just want to say the listeners. I want to say to the listeners, Heke doesn't know that Heke doesn't know I'm saying this, but I've told my sister to keep a journal. So she
Yeah.
has been doing that. What she doesn't know is that we're going to turn that journal into a book. Aren't we? Aren't we, Heke?
Yes.
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 And then we're going to publish it with all its glory because guess what? The stories that need to be told so that our stories can be heard, right?
Yeah.
Eh? Yeah.
Yes.
Our people's stories of how they've coped through trauma. The stories of coping through trauma. With trauma, not just with cancer, but trauma in having parents that have gone through dementia. Dementia is another
Yeah.
space that I know I'm probably going to want to open up for Talanoa because, because that's another thing that as our generation having to consider putting them into those places which we never ever said that we would. Hey,
Yeah.
hey. So because of there's dementia, so your stories, the trauma and how you've coped with it, honey, people want to read it.
Oh,
So
yeah. It'll come to you.
it'll come,
I've
it'll
got
come.
you.
So
Yeah.
So I've encouraged Heke to write, believe it or not. And she's telling me, goes, because I'm an assistant principal, a teacher at heart. It's like me telling my student off, hey, have you done the writing that I told you to write? So she
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
done.
It's coming.
She's been a
And
good
it is.
girl.
Yeah. It's just taken. It's just taken a while.
Oh wow, it doesn't matter. Listen, um, I'm going to play her song. So I often say to people, what when they come on Talanoa, I want to play their song. And so the song that Heke has chosen, I want to get you to introduce it and then I'll put it up. But
Oh, is,
I just want to say, sis, that first of all, I thank God for your life. That's the first thing. I thank God that I met you all those years ago at chemo at Auckland Hospital. Who knew? Hey, who
I
knew
know.
that you and I would be doing a show? That's like
I
that to
know.
say. Hey, so I encourage you to say. I just want to say that your story tonight will be played and replayed and replayed because I've not met any other New Wayans who like you who can tell it straight in terms of this disease that is taking too many of our people too soon without prevention. So while I play the get the song ready, I just want to remind everyone about the 3430 Look for Wholeness, bowel cancer, move your butt, which is currently happening right now. If you don't know anything about it, you can jump on Facebook, look up Alofa Wholeness. It's all there. We are wanting to raise funds and awareness around bowel cancer. And so at the moment, the group, and Hick has seen the group, there's over like 180 people on there who put their hand up to move their butts. That's 30 minutes for 30 days. And then on the 25th of June, we're all going to come together and move some more, do some walking and activations together. So I just wanted to promo that. Definitely want to say thank you, my sister. And
Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna get you to introduce your song while I get the song ready.
Oh yeah, it was just the way you are by Bruno Mars,
And why did you pick that?
because it's on my playlist and I always play it.
What's so what about that song? When I was listening to it before, you just like it?
Yeah, it's a good
Mm,
beat song to sip to.
okay. Well, we're gonna do
Yo,
a little bit of Siva Siva as I put it up there, sis.
yep,
So I just want to
okay.
say bless you and bless our listeners tonight and bless all our whānau. People are saying on my one, it says, can't wait to read your story, Heke. Once again, well done. Amazing testimony. Someone else said, as soon as she hangs up, she'll swear her heart out and then pick up a cigarette.
That's true. That's so true. They know me so well. It's like,
Wow.
yeah.
I think so, eh?
Oh, I know. So
Well, you know what, sis? If you're listening, those people, we love you just the way you are.
Oh, her eyes make the stars look like they're not shining. Her hair falls perfectly without her trying. She's so beautiful, and I tell her every day. Yeah, I know. When I compliment her, she won't believe me, and it's so sad to think that she don't see what I see. But every time she asks me, do I look okay? I say, when I see your face, there's not a thing that I would change. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are. And when you smile, the whole world stops and stares for a while. 'Cause girl, you're amazing, just the way you are. Yeah. Her lips, I could kiss them all day if she'd let me. Her laugh, she hates but I think it's so sexy. She's so beautiful, and I tell her every day.
My last guest, don't forget I'm asking
Oh,
if you were listening.
you know, I never
I want
asked
you
you
to
to
imagine
change. If perfect's what you're searching for, then just stay the same. So don't even bother
wind across her
asking if you
face.
look okay. You know I'll say,
Thinking about the
when I
song.
see your face, there's not a thing that I would change. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are. And when you smile, the whole world stops and stares for a while. 'Cause girl, you're amazing, just the way you are. The way you are. The way you are. Girl, you're amazing, just the way you are. When I see your face, there's not a thing that I would change. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are. And when you smile, you're amazing, just the way you are. And when you
Sis, just want to thank you
smile,
again
yo,
for tonight.
the whole world stops and
thank you.
You know the words of the song that says,
girl, you're amazing.
girl, you're amazing, just the way you are. Heke Manukuo,
Right.
never change. Keep keep the way you are with all your colourfulness. Your cousin says, Jules says, kia monuina, cuz, thank you for sharing and we love you. And
Love you all.
yeah, and I'm just gonna say we love you there. Bless you, sis. Take care. No doubt that I'm gonna catch you again. Probably
Yeah,
driving through the BP, picking up some coffee
that's
from the
right.
window, eh? And because Mangere East is where I work.
Hard. I know. Robertson Road,
God,
Friday. Just
God bless
putting
you,
it out
darling.
there.
Just putting it out there. Take
Putting it
care.
out there.
Take
Okay,
care,
thank you so
guys.
much.
See you later,
Okay,
and
bye.
I'll catch everyone next week, same time, same bat channel. God bless you. I bless you,
Okay,
Heke. See you later,
bless you
sister.
all.
Bye.
Bye.